Assalamu alaikum everybody. So today we are discussing about the life cycle of plasmodium. But before we dive into the video, let's know a brief about a disease called as malaria. We all know that malaria is a disease that is transmitted among humans by mosquitoes. And this disease is clinically manifested by conditions like chills, like fever, sweating, loss of appetite, etc. And we often have heard that malaria among humans is caused by these mosquitoes. But you'll be surprised to know that malaria is not caused by these mosquitoes. Rather, there is a parasite, a pathogen that is responsible for causing the malaria, and we call that pathogen, that parasite, as plasmodium. So, plasmodium is a parasite, or it is a pathogen that is actually the causative agent of a disease called as malaria. It exists as 4 species in nature. The first species, we can call it Plasmodium falciparum. We have Plasmodium vivax, there is Plasmodium malariae, and there is Plasmodium ovale. Although all these species are responsible for causing malaria, but there can be a severity in the disease depending on which type of species is responsible for causing the malaria. Out of all these, Plasmodium falciparum is considered to be the most violent, and it sometimes can be life-threatening as well. So we know that malaria is now caused by a pathogen called as Plasmodium. Then where does the picture of the mosquito come from? Actually, Plasmodium is a parasite that lives naturally in the gut of female Anopheles mosquito. This Anopheles mosquito is called as the primary host of this parasite. And inside the body of this primary host, the parasite completes its sexual reproduction cycle. Sometimes what may happen is the infected Anopheles mosquito may bite humans just to suck their blood. And during the course of sucking that blood, the parasite gets transmitted to the body of humans. In that case, humans are called as the secondary host of the parasite called Plasmodium. Inside the body of the secondary host, the parasite completes its asexual reproduction cycle. How does this process occur? How does the asexual reproduction and the sexual reproduction get completed in the bodies of different organisms? Let's take a quick look on that. Now the entire cycle of the disease called as malaria begins when the female Anopheles mosquito happens to bite a human being just to suck their blood. During the course of stinging or during the course of this biting, the female Anopheles mosquito injects its saliva into the body of the human being. Once the saliva is in the body of the human being, saliva does not come alone, rather it comes along with the Plasmodium parasite. But Plasmodium, which form of Plasmodium does infect the body of the human being at the first place? We call this parasite as sporozoite. This is a form of Plasmodium. Like we already know, all the living organisms have different stages in their lives. Human beings, we have infancy, then we have childhood, we have adulthood, old age, etc. Butterflies, they have the egg stage, the caterpillar stage, the adulthood, etc. etc. Likewise, Plasmodium has also got different stages in its life. At what stage does the Plasmodium infect the body of a human being? This stage is called as sporozoite. Once the sporozoite is inside the body of the human being, the sporozoites, without any further delay, directly attack the liver. Inside the liver cells, they stay for a very long period of time and begin to reproduce asexually. Which mode of asexual reproduction is employed here? We call that asexual mode of reproduction as multiple fission. Multiple fission. So by the process of multiple fission, the sporozoites begin to multiply inside the body of the human being. In which organ do they multiply asexually? We call that organ as a liver. This process of asexual reproduction is called as schizogony. We will be learning in this entire video lecture that the plasmodium completes its life cycle in 3 different stages. The first stage is going to be schizogony. Schizogony is the asexual reproduction that occurs in the cells of liver. Now, once inside the liver cells, the sporozoites will reproduce and reproduce, multiply. The hepatocytes, the liver cells will start to swell. Once they swell, there will come a threshold, a point where the liver cells would no longer be able to sustain these sporozoites. As a result, the liver cells, the hepatocytes will burst, releasing these sporozoites into the body, into the blood. These sporozoites will now enter into the RBCs. Once the sporozoites are inside the RBCs, they are given a different name. This is called as merozoite. Okay, so once the merozoites are inside the RBCs, there they start utilizing the food, they grow up, they mature, and they attain a ring-like structure. This ring-like shape of the plasmodium, this is now called as tropozoite. Once the tropozoite is completely formed, from here the parasite can have 2 fates. Number 1, it can continue the asexual reproduction. Tropozoite will now again divide as a result of multiple fission, and it will start releasing more and more merozoites. Once more and more merozoites are formed inside the RBCs, the RBCs again would burst, they would lyse, and this lysis of RBCs is what causes fever, chills and sweating in the affected patient. These merozoites will now invade another fresh bunch of RBCs, and the cycle is going to continue like this. The second option that the parasite may take is that inside the RBCs, the tropozoite may give rise to 2 germ cells, 2 gametes. These are the male and female gametes. This process of formation of gametes from the tropozoite is called as gametogony. Like I said earlier, the plasmodium completes its life cycle in 3 main stages. The first stage was schizogony. The second stage is gametogony. So this is the formation of the gametes, male and the female gametes, and this entire process occurs inside the body of humans. Once the gametes are formed, they will get locked in the RBCs without any further activity. And after that, if female Anopheles mosquito happens to bite an infected human being all over again, these RBCs containing the gametocytes, they will enter into the body of the female Anopheles mosquito, and inside the body of the female Anopheles mosquito, the RBCs would lyse, they would again burst, releasing the male and the female gametes. Inside the body of the female Anopheles mosquito, these gametes will now fuse together, resulting in the formation of zygote. Zygote will then grow and it will mature to form an oocyte, which undergoes a process called as meiosis, the reduction division. Meiosis leads to the formation of sporozoites from the oocyte, and this process of formation of sporozoites from the oocytes is called as sporogony. Now we know that what are the 3 stages in the life cycle of plasmodium. The first one is going to be schizogony, the second one is the gametogony, and the third one is the sporogony. Fine. Now, we already know that these sporozoites have formed from the oocyte as a result of meiosis. This entire process of meiosis occurs in the gut of female Anopheles mosquito, and all the way from gut they reach the saliva of the female Anopheles mosquito. Again, the infected Anopheles mosquito can invade any other healthy human being, and the cycle of malaria would continue as such. This was all about the life cycle of plasmodium. Thank you so much for staying connected.